We're back and we've got a new episode, and we're trying something a little different with content. We're recording this on the back end of a podcast we just did with my good friend and our guest, Marty Parker. So if you haven't listened to the podcast episode, the full episode, it's about 50 minutes of just good content. There's meeting notes and show notes, so reach out and listen to it. And this is what we're calling a new segment, and we're going to call it the TZE Extra. So let me say that again. I got slurred on my words. The TZE Extra, and we want to dive into a topic we found on the podcast, which was how are some of these companies, how are they? What's world-class sustainability look like? And one of my favorite companies, because their culture resonates with me. How Truett Cathy built the company, how long it took him to build the company. It's actually one of the books. They're Steve Robinson, their now retired chief marketing officer, wrote a book, and it's one of the books we give to new employees at Zion if they want to understand some of the culture of Zion when they start. It's a Chick-fil-A book, and so I really like it. But Marty, thanks for staying on and hanging out. This is a little extra episode, but maybe take 3, 5, 7 minutes and explain to us, like, what is a company like Chick-fil-A? It's a world-class sustainable company. What are some of the things they've done? And if you got other examples, sure, spit it in and share it with us. Thanks for hanging out and staying on with us.
I'm a big example guy, and I think that Chick-fil-A has a set of values, right? And being stewards of the environment is a big value for them. And so 2 challenges they faced. One, their delicious lemonade. I know you've had that. It's just wonderful. I did a Facebook post when they put their ice cream and their lemonade together in that beautiful drink. I forget what it's called, but it's just amazing stuff. If you love lemonade, you love Chick-fil-A lemonade. And one of the issues, though, is they make it fresh. So they cut the lemons, and I saw when they launched their first New York City store that the first day of that store, they cut and had to discard 10,000 lemons.
Wow.
So you just can't even imagine the volume of lemons that they had to handle. And so the problem is, if you've had non-Chick-fil-A lemonade, it doesn't taste the same. If you're trying to make something from concentrate, it's just not the same. And so they worked with partners. They worked many, many years, and I'm not exactly sure where the facility is. And the reason I know this is they have guest lectured in my classes over the years talking about sustainability. And they finally, even working with world-class partners, the partners couldn't figure it out. So they did their own research and figured out how to create a concentrate. They have their own manufacturing facility now. And think about that. Now all the lemons, I think it's in California, now all the lemons are in one place. So now you can take the husks, you can grind it and use it for something else. Fertilizer, animal food, whatever it is. So they just single-handedly took all of this land waste and were able to make it more efficient. It also gives them a big efficiency improvement in the store, right? Because you're not cutting and squeezing at a local store level. You're doing it in a centralized manufacturing environment. But here's the thing. They would never do that if it didn't taste exactly the same. So you want what you do in sustainability to maintain the quality experience for your customer. The second example, I think they are rolling out or have rolled out a new double-sided paper cup to replace their styrofoam cups. And if you think about the big advantage of the styrofoam cups, you get your beautiful iced tea in my case, or iced lemonade, that ice we all love to just crunch on. I just learned recently you can buy that ice. I had no idea you could buy that stuff in a little bag, which is going to be bad for my teeth. But it wouldn't melt, right? You could keep your drink, take it with you. But I know they tried recycling the styrofoam. Nobody else does that, so there's no market for it. And they also, in the stores, they tried to get you to throw the cup into a separate container. Folks weren't doing it. They were mixing it up. So then they went to try, and great companies, by the way, experiment a lot. And so they went to develop this double wall paper, and I think they've just launched it or in the process of launching it. So now it's environmentally friendly. Again, you can dispose of it in a safe way, and it doesn't last forever. It's biodegradable, and your drink still stays cold or hot for a long period of time. So it's win-win. So you know, and they just stay on it and keep doing it. These were long-term projects for them that took lots of effort and lots of resource and lots of commitment. Sometimes it's staring you in the face. My last example I did with Stocorp, where we would treat water as a paint making, stucco making company. So we would make a batch, have to wash, make a batch, have to wash, and then have to go through a water treatment process to treat all that water, settle out the solids, you know, and send cleaner water back to the Chattahoochee than we probably got. But what a waste. What if you could figure out how to get rid of that water in a more intelligent way? Well, one of the main ingredients of paint is water. So we figured out a way to not clean it, you know, to get the solids and to make sure the water wouldn't spoil in any way, and then recycle it right into the next batch. You know, it took a lot of experimentation, a lot of R&D to make sure that the paint product would perform right, it wouldn't mildew. But then suddenly, instead of having, as the company grows, more and more water to treat, you now have much less because you're internally reusing it. Similar example at Philip Morris, where I worked early in my career, they would chop up tobacco leaves for cigarettes, and there'd be a lot of stem and scrap left over. They would collect all of that, and they would turn it into a fake tobacco leaf. They basically would grind up this extra stem and tobacco and make a paper out of it. And then I worked in that area of the company. And so it got rid of the waste completely. So you know, companies can do this kind of things. They just have to be committed to it and put the time and effort into it. And just like you said, it's a these are world-class companies that want to, it's in their value prop that they're going to do that. So those are the ones that are those are just examples.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been in several, of course, there's bourbon tours here, and you go through, we've been through Buffalo Trace and Jim Beam's right out my back door, Maker's Mark, but you go through the most recent one was Buffalo Trace, and there's very little waste in these manufacturing or these companies. And the good ones, you know, I think there's incentive if you can make money off the waste and turn it in. I think that's at the core of the incentive on it. But when you listen to what like a Chick-fil-A is doing or a couple of the other examples, it's, you know, Chick-fil-A probably stands out a little bit to me because they aren't getting a more premium product. They're maintaining product quality, but they're doing it because it's their values and their cores, and the Earth's resources are not getting any more plentiful.
That's
and
right.
What maybe wasn't as important a century ago, a decade ago, multiple decades ago is, I think my children and the generations coming behind me, they're going to have to find ways to do this. And it's not going to be because you can go out and sell a new product. It's going to be because you've got to make the most out of the problem in front of you. And I think humankind usually responds in that manner when you've got something in front of you. And it's just, we're on the very tipping edge, I think, of this even becoming something that every company's going to be looking for, because I'd love to be fast forward the future 100 years and just seeing some of the sustainability practices that are out of necessity. They're going to have to be. And I'm thankful we've got regulators and these. We just got back from a trip from India, and the pollution in downtown Delhi was just unreal to me. And so we hear a lot about that, and sometimes you hear people calling this like it's a a woke culture or kind of tree huggers or some of that, but it's you can take that approach on it, but it's just about being good stewards of what God's blessed us with, the resources we have, and just what's around us, and not taking for granted, so it's there and available for future generations.
Well, Jimmy, I'm old enough to remember. I mean, I lived through the Clean Air and Water Act. I lived in Charleston, West Virginia, when there was pollution in the air and we were dumping stuff in our rivers. Nobody got in the river. You didn't go anywhere near it. Now there's regattas and people out on the river and enjoying that resource. Can you imagine what that river and what that air would be like if we had not worked together to deal with that? I mean, it would be just unbelievably horrible. So this is the kind of thing that when we work together, we really can make a significant difference. We can make a difference in our daily decisions, which we talked about in the main podcast, but we also need to coordinate our efforts as a society. And, I'm a big time capitalist typically, but capitalism didn't build roads. Capitalism didn't build airports. Capitalism is not going to stop bad actors from dumping things into rivers and pumping things into air that shouldn't be there for all of us. It's really going to be an element of regulation and coordination. It doesn't always have to be regulation, because industry associations come together and coordinate to do this stuff, which is kind of a hybrid of regulation and capitalism. But the great thing is we can work together. Companies like Chick-fil-A show that we can do that and make things better for everyone, including ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren.
Yeah. It's about something bigger than yourself. And so I think this is a great place to end. Marty, I've enjoyed staying on and talking a little extra. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you, and I hope if you're on listening to this, you enjoyed it. If you haven't, we'll have in the show notes of this episode how you get to the main podcast, and we call it the TZE. It's the Zion Experience, and got several out there. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can find a podcast, and go check it out if you're just listening to this extra episode. And Marty, thank you.
No, thank you, Jimmy.